are you?
My name is Pussy Galore.
I must be dreaming.
Honor Blackman shocked the world in tight leather outfits that made censors panic. Her television show was banned in America. Entire scenes were cut in Britain. But that was just the beginning. Behind the cameras, she was throwing grown men to the ground with real martial arts. At 39, she broke Hollywood's biggest rule and became the oldest woman to seduce James Bond. But her most scandalous secret wasn't what she wore. It was what she did in private. Honor Blackman was born on 22 August 1925 at 200 Cumberland Road in Canning Town, Plaistow, one of East London's toughest neighborhoods in the years after the First World War. The area was full of overcrowded tenements, unemployment was high, and outbreaks of influenza were still common. Her father worked as a civil service statistician and earned just enough to keep food on the table for his wife Edith and their 4 children. The family home didn't even have an indoor bathroom until the late 1930s. For Honor, childhood meant playing in bomb-damaged streets and going to grammar school classes held in makeshift huts because of the housing shortages. Many children around her suffered from malnutrition, with health records from 1926 showing that 18% of East London children had stunted growth due to poverty. But the neighborhood had a strong community spirit, with church bazaars, brass bands, and free storytelling at the local library. When Honor was 9, she attended a library opening where poetry was read aloud. She later said that moment felt like discovering a secret key to another world, sparking a love of performance that never left her. On her 16th birthday in 1941, as the Blitz raged and rationing grew tighter, her father gave her an unusual choice. She could have a new bicycle, which cost 5 guineas, or take elocution lessons at a private studio for 10 shillings a session. Even though she admitted she secretly longed to race the neighborhood boys on a bike, she chose the lessons. That decision changed everything. Her tutor, Mrs. Marion Cody, introduced her to Shakespeare, John Donne's sonnets, and Ibsen's dramas. It didn't take long for Cody to realize her potential. She wrote to Honor's father, urging him to enroll her part-time at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. Despite the cost, Frederick scraped together the fees, and in October 1941, while London was still under nightly air raids, Honor began taking classes at Guildhall. It was a leap few from Plaistow's council estates could dream of. The following year, when she was only 16, Honor took an even bolder step. She volunteered as a motorcycle dispatch rider for the Home Office's Civil Defense, a job usually reserved for men. After passing tough tests in motorcycle maintenance, navigation, and first aid, she was issued a 500cc Norton Model 18 and the code name Tess. Other riders quickly nicknamed her Top Gear Tessie because of her fearless high-speed rides through blackout conditions, often while Luftwaffe bombers were overhead. From her base at Downing Street, she carried secret communiques between Churchill's war rooms, the Ministry of Aircraft Production, and field hospitals. Some nights she covered as much as 120 miles in a single shift. On April 14, 1943, she braved a direct air raid on Victoria Station to deliver a microfilm with decrypted Enigma data, an act later described as vital to operational security. She carried no weapon, only her long leather coat, which she joked could double as padding against shrapnel. For decades, the full extent of these missions remained unknown until she finally revealed them in a 2005 memoir. After the war, she took her first steps into acting. In 1947, she appeared in Fame is the Spur, filmed at Denham Studios, as a maid in Parliament. But disaster struck on set when a horse in a cavalry scene stepped on her braided hair, pinning her head to the ground. If its hoof had landed just inches further forward, it would have crushed her skull. She was pulled out, bleeding from a gash 2 inches long, and had to undergo scalp grafts and eyebrow reconstruction at Charing Cross Hospital. She later joked that no stunt in her James Bond career ever frightened her as much as that horse. At the same time, she worked exhausting hours to fund her studies. From 1940 to 1946, she trained at Guildhall by day and worked nights as a clerical assistant in the Home Office's Statistics Division. She averaged 57 hours a week, with 20 hours of drama training, 32 hours of clerical work, plus homework and long commutes through blackout streets. On June 22, 1944, just after D-Day, she handled 1,245 incoming dispatches in one shift, staying calm even as bombs shook the office windows. She often fainted from exhaustion, but she kept pushing forward. By the time she graduated from Guildhall in July 1946, she was offered a permanent position at the Home Office. She turned it down for a chance at the stage, starting as an understudy in The Guinea Pig that September. Her career nearly ended before it began. On opening night, March 29, 1946, the lead actress suddenly fell ill, and Honor was pushed on stage without warning. She had never spoken a line in public, yet she performed with such confidence that critics called her astonishingly poised and magnetic. Within weeks, she was offered major roles, and her career took off. By 1950, she joined the Rank Organization's company of youth at Pinewood Studios, widely known as the Charm School. It promised young actors a future in film, but the reality was grueling. She earned just $10 a week, while established actors made $100, and studio executives controlled nearly every move she made. The pressure grew so intense that in 1954 she was hospitalized for 3 weeks with severe anxiety. Despite the setbacks, she delivered memorable performances in films like Quartet in 1948 and So Long at the Fair in 1950, before eventually leaving Rank in 1958 to take back control of her career. Her biggest breakthrough came on television in the early 1960s. Playing Kathy Gale in The Avengers, she insisted on doing her own fight scenes, but her trousers kept ripping during rehearsals. One embarrassing tear forced her to cover herself with a stage prop. To solve the problem, designer Michael Whitaker created a leather jumpsuit sturdy enough for combat, yet sleek on screen. Filmed in black and white, the dark green leather looked black, creating her iconic look that later inspired a pop single about her kinky boots. To prepare for the role, she trained at London's Budokwai, the oldest judo club in Europe. Under Sensei Masaki Satake, she practiced 5 days a week, learning techniques like osotogari and kosotogake, and within 2 years, she had earned a brown belt, a remarkable achievement for a woman at the time. Her authentic throws and holds on screen set a new standard for action sequences, influencing future female action stars from Sigourney Weaver to Scarlett Johansson. Before she became a household name, Honor built her reputation with strong performances in films throughout the 1950s. In Quartet, she showed emotional range as Paula. In Diamond City, she played the resilient Mary Hart. And in So Long at the Fair, she shone as Rhoda O'Donovan under tense circumstances. Her role in A Night to Remember in 1958, playing Titanic passenger Mrs. Liz Lucas, showed her grace in tragedy. By the time she stepped into Kathy Gale's boots, audiences already saw her as more than a glamorous actress. In 1961, television history changed forever when Honor Blackman stepped into a role that wasn't even meant for a woman. Ian Hendry, who had been the lead star of The Avengers as Dr. David Keel, had just walked away after 25 episodes. The producers, scrambling for a replacement, cast Blackman at the last minute in a part originally written for a man. Without rewriting the script, she played the character exactly as it was, bringing a strength and authority that shocked audiences. This choice created television's first truly equal female action hero. Suddenly, the Avengers was no longer just a male detective show. It had become something groundbreaking, and Blackman's Kathy Gale was at the center of it. Her character soon stirred controversy that even censors couldn't ignore. The leather outfits, the confidence, and the unapologetic way she fought back against villains made Kathy Gale unlike any woman television had shown before. In Britain, officials ordered scenes to be cut, such as one whipping sequence that was reduced from 12 strikes to just 2. In America, entire episodes were banned for being too provocative. Yet, while studio technicians whispered about her tight leather costumes, audiences couldn't look away. Blackman's Gale was rarely knocked unconscious, often fought off abductions, and carried herself with a confidence most female characters of the time never had. She inspired shows like Honey West in the United States and even influenced Doctor Who's early character development. She was, in every sense, ahead of her time, embodying what would much later be called girl power. The influence of her image spread beyond the screen. In 1964, she recorded the novelty single Kinky Boots with Patrick McNee. At the time, it flopped and was quickly forgotten. But in 1990, BBC DJ Simon Mayo revived it as part of his Christmas tradition of playing obscure old songs. To everyone's surprise, it shot up the UK charts, reaching number 5 and staying there for 7 weeks. The track was barely 1 minute and 37 seconds long, making it one of the shortest songs ever to break into the top 5. It had taken 26 years, but the quirky duet finally became a hit. Her leather costumes were more than just a fashion statement. They were born from necessity. Blackman, who had been training in judo at the Budokai Club in London since 1961, insisted on doing her own fight scenes. Ordinary clothes couldn't handle the throws, flips, and falls she performed on the concrete studio floors. Trousers tore, skirts split, and the wardrobe team had to find a solution. Designer Michael Whitaker created a leather jumpsuit that was both durable and stylish. On black and white screens, the green leather appeared dark and sleek, creating an iconic look that defined Kathy Gale. The outfit started fashion trends across Britain, with her boots becoming a national craze. Blackman later even wrote a book on self-defense, showing how seriously she had taken her role. Behind the scenes, the show wasn't without its dangers. The studio floors at ABC's Teddington facility were concrete, with no padding or safety mats. Blackman's commitment to performing her own stunts put her at real risk. During one sequence, she landed awkwardly and suffered injuries serious enough to keep her off set for weeks. The production team kept the incident quiet, worried about insurance problems and the risk of losing their star. In later years, Blackman admitted that repeatedly hitting the hard floors left her with lasting pain. Her fame also came with unsettling attention. Fan mail poured in by the sackload, and nearly all of it was from men. Many letters contained explicit fantasies, some crossing into disturbing territory that required police involvement. A few fans tried to track her home address, forcing the studio to step in for her protection. Yet, she also received an unexpected amount of mail from women who admired her independence and strength. To them, she was more than a glamorous star. She was proof that a woman could be intelligent, physical, and completely in control of her own story. Despite her success, Blackman made the surprising decision to leave the Avengers after 43 episodes. It came at the exact moment the show was about to switch to film, add color, and finally secure the kind of budget that promised global success. Most assumed she left to play Pussy Galore in Goldfinger, but her own words tell a different story. She believed 2 years was long enough and chose to leave at her creative peak rather than stay longer for bigger paychecks. Her life before the Avengers was just as remarkable. Born on 22nd of August 1925 in Plaistow, one of East London's roughest neighborhoods, she grew up in a home without an indoor bathroom until the late 1930s. Her father worked as a civil service statistician, earning just enough to feed the family. Malnutrition was common in the area, and by 1926, nearly 18% of children showed stunted growth. Honor found her escape in books and performances, inspired at 9 years old when she heard poetry read aloud at a local library. On her 16th birthday in 1941, her father gave her a strange choice: a new bicycle or elocution lessons. She picked the lessons, a decision that changed her life. Her tutor introduced her to Shakespeare and Ibsen, and soon she was studying at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. At the same time, she took on a secret wartime job as a motorcycle dispatch rider, dodging bombs to deliver messages between Churchill's war rooms and hospitals. Known as Top Gear Tessie, she sometimes covered 120 miles in a single night shift. Her first steps into acting were just as dramatic. At age 22, she was an understudy in the West End play The Guinea Pig, when the lead suddenly fell ill. With no time to prepare, she went on stage and delivered a flawless performance, launching her career overnight. The following year, while filming Fame is the Spur, she narrowly avoided death when a horse stepped on her hair during a battle scene, tearing her scalp and leaving her bleeding badly. She recovered and pressed on, determined not to let fear control her. By the 1950s, she joined the rank organization's Company of Youth, a training program meant to create stars but notorious for exploiting young actors. Paid just £10 a week, she endured endless drills and studio control, even suffering a breakdown from the pressure. Still, she pushed through, building a reputation with roles in films like Quartet and So Long at the Fair. By the time she took on Kathy Gale in The Avengers, audiences already saw her as a woman who could combine glamour with grit. When Honor Blackman was chosen to play Pussy Galore in Goldfinger, it was a gamble that could have gone very wrong. Producer Albert Broccoli knew that while she was already a household name in Britain thanks to her role in The Avengers, American audiences had never seen her before. He was convinced this would work in her favor. British fans already admired her leather-clad, judo-throwing Kathy Gale, and American viewers would discover a striking new talent who could match James Bond in strength and wit. Instead of following Hollywood tradition and hiring an established American actress, Broccoli bet on Blackman's real martial arts skills and commanding presence. That decision helped turn Goldfinger into a worldwide hit. Blackman also broke one of Hollywood's unspoken rules. At 39, she was 5 years older than Sean Connery, making her the oldest actress at that time to play a Bond girl. She never liked the label Bond girl, pointing out that her character was a pilot, leading her own flying team. She wasn't there to look pretty in the background. She had authority, skill, and life experience. Her age brought a confidence and gravity to the role that a younger actress couldn't have offered, and it made her scenes with Connery charged with a unique tension. Even the character's name caused a stir. Pussy Galore was considered so shocking that American censors wouldn't allow it in many newspaper ads or trailers. Marketers often had to call her Miss Galore, or simply refer to her as Goldfinger's pilot. The producers briefly considered changing the name, but eventually stuck with it. Blackman herself leaned into the controversy, often saying the name on live television just to watch American interviewers squirm. Her role was memorable not only for her presence, but also for her physical ability. Blackman had trained seriously in judo for the Avengers, working with professional instructors Douglas and Lorna Robinson. She was so skilled that the producers rewrote parts of the script to show Pussy Galore as a fighter. In one famous scene, she genuinely threw Sean Connery to the ground. It wasn't a stunt double, she actually floored him using real judo techniques, a level of authenticity rarely seen in Bond films up to that point. This combination of strength, maturity, and boldness changed how Bond women were portrayed. Blackman rejected the idea that they should be bimbos, saying she had never been one and never would be. Instead of wearing revealing costumes like her predecessors, Ursula Andress or Daniela Bianchi, she projected power through her confidence and practicality. She became a feminist icon within the series, showing that a Bond woman could be both professional and formidable. Her impact was so strong that later producers said she would forever be remembered as a Bond icon. But Goldfinger wasn't the only remarkable part of her career. A year before, in 1963, she played the goddess Hera in Jason and the Argonauts. The film became legendary for Ray Harryhausen's groundbreaking stop-motion creatures like the bronze giant Talos and the skeleton warriors. Blackman held her own on screen, giving Hera both authority and mystery while performing against monsters that were added later through painstaking animation. She had only 5 chances to help Jason, mirroring the number of times his sister had called on her before dying, and her presence brought a haunting sense of myth and destiny to the film. In 1965, she proved her dramatic range in Life at the Top, starring alongside Lawrence Harvey and Gene Simmons. She played a sharp television journalist who became involved with Harvey's character. The story explored the struggles of ambition, marriage, and betrayal in industrial Yorkshire. Critics praised her performance, saying every member of the cast was perfectly chosen. The film showed that Blackman could be just as effective in serious drama as in action or fantasy. She also ventured into westerns, a bold move that put her alongside some of Hollywood's biggest names. In Shalako, 1968, she starred with Sean Connery and Brigitte Bardot. Blackman later admitted the production was difficult, calling Bardot a nightmare because she had recently attempted suicide and needed constant care. The film featured European aristocrats on a hunting trip in New Mexico who found themselves in Apache territory. Though reviews were lukewarm, the casting made headlines. She followed this with Something Big in 1971, playing the kidnapped wife of Dean Martin's aging outlaw, showing once again her versatility. On stage, she surprised audiences by taking on the blind heroine in Wait Until Dark. The play, a suspense thriller, forced her to move through scenes in near darkness, creating tension as audiences shared her character's fear. Critics were amazed by how she shed her strong action hero persona to become vulnerable yet determined. She later stunned audiences in musical theater, especially in A Little Night Music in 1979 and The Sound of Music in 1981 with Petula Clark. Despite having no formal training, her deep and sultry singing voice earned her rave reviews. The London run of The Sound of Music broke box office records with the largest advance sale in British theatre history. Her versatility showed again in Noel Coward's Mr. and Mrs. in 1968, where she played 2 very different women in one night. First a nagging housewife, then a tragic, romantic heroine. Switching so completely between characters revealed the extraordinary range she had beyond her action roles. Even in her personal life, she blurred the line between stage and home. With her second husband, Maurice Kaufman, she starred in the farce Move Over, Mrs. Markham, which toured internationally. They divorced in 1975, but remained close friends, even continuing to work together afterward. Their 2 children often joined them on tour, creating a family dynamic unusual for the entertainment world. In the 1990s, Blackman reinvented herself again for a new generation in the sitcom The Upper Hand. She played Laura West, a glamorous older woman who was bold, flirtatious, and hilariously outspoken. The series ran for 7 seasons from 1990 to 1996, with 94 episodes, proving that she still had star power well into her 60s. At a time when most actresses struggled to find roles past middle age, Blackman became one of the most memorable characters on British television, showing that age could be portrayed not as a limit, but as a liberation. Honor Blackman was only 21 when she married businessman Bill Sankey in 1946, and at first, it seemed like the beginning of a bright future. But the man who was 12 years older soon revealed a side that made her life feel more like a prison than a partnership. He reminded her of her own father in ways that were unsettling. And what began as love quickly turned into control. Sankey was jealous to the point of obsession. He wanted to know where she was, who she spoke to, and he tried to keep her away from the acting career she was just starting to build. The worst blow came when he announced that he planned to move to Canada and expected her to leave her career behind without question. What she discovered next nearly broke her completely. Sankey had been secretly draining her bank accounts through what was later described as fraudulent business practices. For 8 long years, she endured the suffocating marriage until it finally ended in 1954. By then, the damage had already been done. She was left so shattered that she suffered a complete nervous breakdown and needed to be hospitalized. Mental health was a subject almost no one spoke of openly in the 1950s, and the stigma was heavy. But after leaving the hospital, she committed herself to years of counseling. At a time when most public figures would have hidden such struggles, Honor quietly built herself back up with therapy sessions that became her lifeline. They taught her to recognize manipulation, to build boundaries, and to protect her sense of self-worth. It took a long time before she could even think about trusting someone again, but those hard lessons later helped her bring to life the strong and fearless Kathy Gale on the Avengers. By the time she married actor Maurice Kaufman in December 1961, she was 37 and ready to start over. At first, it seemed like the relationship she had always wanted. They understood each other's world, even appearing together in the 1971 thriller Fright and in stage productions. But behind the scenes, there was heartbreak. They wanted children desperately, yet doctors told them they could not conceive together. In an era when infertility carried heavy shame, this news was devastating. After much soul-searching, they chose to adopt. Their daughter Lottie arrived in 1967, followed by Barnaby in 1968. Honor poured herself into motherhood, balancing her international career with long hours of parenting, often relying on a string of au pairs while filming. She later admitted she felt like nothing was ever good enough. A shadow from her own childhood, she was determined not to repeat. Though the children brought joy, the marriage grew strained. Kaufman's career was slowing, just as Honor's was exploding with the Avengers and Goldfinger, and the weight of her success against his struggles created resentment on both sides. In 1975, after 14 years together, they divorced. Honor confessed later that she felt a deep sense of failure, especially because she had promised her adopted children a secure and happy home. Still, she and Kaufman remained close friends, and when he developed cancer, she cared for him through a grueling 13-year battle until his death in 1997. After the divorce, she made a decision few expected. For the next 45 years, she chose to remain single. When asked why, she explained simply that she was a shy person and preferred her own company. To the public, it was surprising, especially since she had played some of the most confident and independent women on screen. Yet, privately, she had learned through bitter experience that solitude was far better than the wrong companionship. The choice brought her peace. She remained devoted to her children, and later her 4 grandchildren, Daisy, Oscar, Olive, and Toby. She lived happily in her home in Lewes, Sussex, and in her summer house in Islesboro, Maine. She also threw her energy into causes she believed in, from fair trade to political campaigns. Honor was never afraid to stand by her convictions, even when it meant going against tradition. In 2002, she turned down the chance to be made a Commander of the Order of the British Empire. Many in Britain were shocked, but she explained that accepting would have been hypocritical. She was a staunch Republican and opposed the monarchy, so she could not accept an honor from it. Later, she caused another stir when she publicly criticized Sean Connery in 2012. She admitted she had once found him very tempting during Goldfinger, but she could not forgive him for accepting a knighthood while living abroad to avoid paying British taxes. Her words were sharp and personal, saying she no longer thought highly of his principles. In 2013, when Margaret Thatcher died, Honor spoke out again. While much of the nation offered respectful tributes, she said plainly that Thatcher had done little to empower women, surrounding herself with men and ignoring opportunities to encourage women in politics. She also criticized her handling of unions and admitted she was unhappy about the Falklands War, bluntly saying, "We lost men, we took injuries, and we blew up a ship." She even went further, arguing that the Falklands belonged more to Argentina than to Britain, a view that shocked many given that 255 British servicemen had died in the conflict. Her honesty drew heavy criticism, but she never softened her words. Her career, meanwhile, never slowed. At 75, she enjoyed an extraordinary comeback with Bridget Jones's Diary in 2001, playing Penny Husbands Bosworth. It launched more than a decade of new work, with films like Color Me Kubrick in 2005, Reuniting the Rubens in 2010, and I, Anna in 2012, along with television roles in Coronation Street, Casualty, and The Royal. Even in her 80s, she performed her one-woman show Wayward Women, touring with stories and songs about bold women who changed the world. Audiences were amazed by her energy and presence as she commanded the stage alone well into her 90s. On April 5, 2020, Honor Blackman died peacefully at her home in Lewes, East Sussex, at the age of 94. Her family made it clear her death was from natural causes and not related to the coronavirus, which was raging at the time. She had lived almost a full century, from her birth in 1925 in Canning Town to her final spring surrounded by family in the countryside she loved. Her children described her as a woman of extraordinary beauty, intelligence, and determination, with a unique voice and an unmatched work ethic. She had left behind not just a legacy of unforgettable roles, but also the story of a woman who lived life entirely on her own terms, no matter the cost.